Welcome to Eureka Epoch, bringing Urantia Book insights to life through storytelling, visuals, and inspired exploration. Subscribe for more.
Long before the myth of Eden became a parable in sacred texts, a real tree stood at the center of a divine experiment on Earth. The tree of life was no metaphor. It was a superphysical plant, a living instrument of longevity designed by the celestial architects of the universe. Its presence marked Urantia's earliest age of planetary administration, and its story reaches deep into the spiritual heritage of our world. The tree's origins were not of Earth. It was created on Edentia, the headquarters sphere of the Norlaciac constellation, by the universe authorities responsible for administering evolutionary worlds. When the planetary prince Caligastia arrived on Urantia nearly 500,000 years ago, he brought with him a staff of 100 materialized beings, superhumans whose unique bodies required a special form of sustenance. The tree of life was planted as part of their support system. This tree wasn't just a source of symbolic wisdom or beauty. It functioned as a superchemical reactor, absorbing select space energies and transforming them into a biologically active essence. When its fruit was consumed by beings equipped with dual energy systems, those connected both materially and spiritually, it sustained their immortality, halting aging and extending life indefinitely. In this sense, it was a tool of divine science, not magic, but an engineered connection between cosmic forces and living biology. However, this power came with limits. Ordinary mortals, the Andinite tribes who lived near the staff, could not benefit from the tree's fruit. Their life circuits were not attuned to spiritual energy in the way the celestial staff's bodies were. Even though these early humans served in the prince's cultural uplift missions and were permitted to dwell nearby, the tree's energies remained inaccessible to them. It was a gift for beings who served divine administration, not a universal cure. When Caligastia betrayed his post during the Lucifer Rebellion, only a few remained loyal to the divine plan. Among them were Van and his human associate Amadon. Together, they defied the rebellion and preserved the tree. While the world plunged into chaos, they retreated into the eastern highlands, taking with them the tree and safeguarding it in a hidden sanctuary. For over 150,000 years, Van and Amadon kept the tree alive. Generation after generation, it was tended faithfully by loyal followers, acting as a living link to the higher purposes once entrusted to the world. Eventually, when Earth was granted a second epochal revelation, the arrival of Adam and Eve, Van personally oversaw the transplantation of the tree to the Garden of Eden, a specially prepared enclave designed to be the center of planetary restoration. At the heart of this vast garden, within a walled enclosure, the tree of life was again rooted. There it sustained the material son and daughter, not as a luxury, but as a biological necessity. The Urantia Book tells us that Adam and Eve's bodies glowed with radiant health, a visible aura, a reflection of their dual nature as material spiritual beings. This glow was not artistic license. It was a literal phenomenon. The tree's fruit nourished their system as sunlight feeds the leaves of a plant. Without it, even they would begin to age. Adam and Eve's mission was monumental, to uplift and biologically enhance the human races through planned, gradual interbreeding, a divine method of evolutionary acceleration. But the plan faltered when Eve was misled into undertaking a premature union with a member of the Nodite tribe. The result was not immediate death, but a tragic loss, the breakdown of their spiritual circuitry. The higher connection that allowed the tree's energy to function was gone. Though they continued to eat its fruit, its sustaining effect had ceased. They were now mortal. After their default, the Edenic experiment was ended. Adam and Eve were relocated, and the tree of life was left behind. Divine administrators forbade its removal. It remained in the deserted garden for a time, watched over by curious onlookers and hopeful intruders. Eventually, the Nodites, descendants of the very people with whom Eve had erred, took over the garden. They attempted to consume the fruit, seeking immortality, but found only disappointment. Without the required spiritual circuits, the tree's energy was useless to them. Frustrated, they eventually burned the temple that housed the tree. The fire consumed the last living remnant of its kind on Earth. When the Edenic Peninsula later sank, only ruins remained beneath the sea, a lost chapter of planetary history buried in time. But the meaning of the tree endured. In the Urantia Book, the Tree of Life is not just a biological artifact, it is a symbol of higher integration. It represents the need for cooperation between material existence and spiritual purpose, between divine grace and individual responsibility. Even superhuman beings, princes, sons, and immortal staff, could not live indefinitely on their own. Life was not self-sustaining. It flowed down from above, channeled through sacred connection. And so the tree reminds us, eternal life is not achieved by science alone, nor by mystical shortcuts. It is a gift, one that must be received through alignment with divine will. The fruit was freely given, but only to those who served the higher mission. It could not be abused, misused, or given to others casually. In this way, the tree stands as both blessing and boundary. Its destruction marked the end of a dispensation, but its story points forward to a time when the leaves of the tree will be for the healing of the nations. This isn't merely about biological longevity. It's about the future restoration of spiritual unity on Earth, when divine energy will again flow freely, not through a single tree, but through the hearts of those aligned with universal truth. Though no tree now stands in Eden, the memory of its purpose remains planted in the soul of our planet. The tree of life lives on, not in fruit or foliage, but in the legacy of faith, loyalty, and divine connection.